Welcome to another episode of The Bug Bite, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where we are engineered to win. In today's episode, we are going to talk about the Okta security breach. But before we get into that, we're going to have to figure out who or what is Okta and what exactly do they do. So let's get going. All right. So this article is from Ars Technica, and it says again, it reads Okta hit by another security breach, this one stealing employee data from third party vendors. Threat actor gained access to vendors' IT environment and exfiltrated personal data. All right. But before we can even get into that, let's find out who and what Okta is and what do they do. So we'll read here. It says Okta is an American identity and access management company based in San Francisco. It provides cloud software that helps companies manage and secure user authentication into applications and for developers to build identity controls into applications, websites, services, and devices. And we just read here real quick, what exactly does Okta do? Okta is a customizable, secure, and drop in solution to add authentication and authorization services to your applications. Get scalable authentication built right into your application without development overhead, security risk, and maintenance that comes from building it yourself. Hmm, security risk. Okay. So, based on that, let's go through the article and see what we have. Okay. So, let's scroll down a bit and let's start here. Identity and authentication management provider Okta has been hit by another security breach. Or identity identity and authentication management provider Okta has hit identity and authentication management provider Okta has been hit by another breach. This one against a third-party vendor that allowed hackers to steal personal information for 5,000 Okta employees. The compromise was carried out in late September against Rightway Healthcare, a Okta service or a service Okta uses to support employees and their dependents in finding healthcare providers and plan rates. An unidentified threat actor gained access to Rightway's network and made off with an eligibility census file the vendor maintained on behalf of Okta. Okta learned of the compromise and data theft on October 12th and didn't disclose it until Thursday, exactly 3 weeks later. Okay. So let's see what else it says. The types of personal information contained in the impacted eligibility census file include your name, social security number, and health or medical insurance plan number. A letter sent to affected Okta employees stated, we have no evidence to suggest that your personal information has been misused against you. The letter, which is the first time the event has been disclosed, said Okta opened an investigation immediately after learning of it. The investigation revealed that data for 4,961 Okta employees was included in the stolen file. In an email, an Okta representative said that based on the information Rightway provided, the intruder first gained access to Rightway's employees' cell phone and then used that access to change credentials and take the files. The files were the files, which were from April 2019 through 2020, were exfiltrated from Rightway's IT environment. The personal information pertaining to Okta employees and their dependents from 2019 and 2020. Okta said that Rightway informed it had been, that Okta said that Rightway informed it that the compromise involved multiple Rightway customers. All right. So far, quick recap. Um, it wasn't Okta directly who, or their employees directly who were infiltrated. It was through a third party company, Rightway, that they were able to, I guess, get access to the information from Rightway. And that information on right way contained Okta employees. So if you remember in the past where we've talked about just because your information is safe in one place, right, doesn't mean that it's actually safe in another place. So, for instance, the way that Okta could be perfectly secure, like defending their employees' data, but now when they're going through like other vendors to provide healthcare or maybe 401k, whatever the case may be that they're providing, how secure are the companies that you're using to protect you from to protect your data, or to protect your employee data? Because now who technically takes the fall? Who's at fault? If I'm an employee of Okta and my information is leaked, not necessarily by Okta, but by a vendor that Okta uses, who am I upset with, right? So that those type of things come into play. I mean, what happened with Right Way Health? Why wasn't their platform secure? And as an employee of Okta, was the was their systems properly vetted and audited before we signed up to go with them? You know, there's a lot of work that comes before signing up for a system and integrating with a third party because there's audits, there's checks that have to be done. So many things, so many questions that could be asked here. All right. So this incident does not relate to the use of Okta services, and Okta services remain secure. The representative said, no Okta customer data is impacted by this incident. Rightway representatives didn't immediately respond to an email seeking comment and additional details about the breach. Thursday's disclosure comes 2 weeks after Okta revealed that hackers compromised its customer support system and obtained credentials that allowed them to take control of customers' internal Okta administration accounts. The attack then used those credentials in follow on hacks that targeted the internal administration accounts of 1Password, Beyond Trust, Cloudflare, and possibly other customers. Okta, and so now we have some information about Okta, like we read before. Okta is based in San Francisco and provides cloud identity access management for single sign-on multi-factor authentication and API services to thousands of organizations worldwide. The company has previously come under criticism for security breaches and its handling of them afterwards. Most recently, Cloudflare called out Okta for not driving the intruders out of its network until October 18, 16 days after learning of the compromise. Cloudflare urged Okta to act quicker in the future when learning of security breaches, providing disclosures sooner and requiring the use of hard keys to protect internal systems and systems used by third party providers. For a critical security service provider like Okta, we believe following these best practices takes um, is table stakes. Cloudflare researcher wrote. The Okta representative said in Thursday's email that when the company learned of Rightway's compromise on October 12th, investigators had 27,000 records to sort through. Much of the process has to be manually done and took time to complete. This little part right here at the end, right? So we can have so much different type of automation, but sorting through 27,000 records that has to be manually done. Like, I don't know. I don't know. There needs to be better. There needs to be more focus on cybersecurity, on protection of customer data, of your employee data, of how people can get access into your systems. Hackers are not going to stop, right? And I think that we need to be just as diligent and creative and use the evil that the hackers do. We need to be just as vigilant in a good way as they are in their evil ways that they try to, use all that knowledge for nefarious intentions, Um, but yeah, like what Cloudflare said, about it, they're totally right. You need to disclose the information earlier because during that time when the data is out there, who knows what might be happening, it took them like I said 3 weeks for them to report it to their customers or to their employees about the right way hack. Hopefully and luckily nobody was impacted. In a like nobody's data was used, like was misused. But sometimes the hackers take the information and they lie in wait for some time until they're ready to they have a bigger plan. Um and I would be curious to know how is Right Way going to be held accountable by Okta for the security breach and how they negatively impacted their the Okta's employees. There's so many things that can come out negatively out of this when people's data is just floating around in the hands of who knows what. Um, it's very disheartening for an individual knowing that through through technically no fault of your own, right? Because especially in the case of like you being an employee of a company, right? I'll give an example. So let's go here, right? So I'll give an example. So let's say you work for a company and they use the one of the most popular human resource management is ADP, right? So let's say they use ADP, and now so your personal data, a lot of data as well, is stored in ADP, and now your company, like ADP gets breached, and then hackers take your company's data, like like they take the employee roster of your company, right, which would include the same thing it included with Okta here, right? With Rightway, includes your name, last name. It would include your social, date of birth. Could probably include like your driver's license number, whatever information you put in there, right? So it's not necessarily like your company's fault that ADP got hacked, but your data got hacked through your company using ADP, and ADP is like one of the biggest providers. And I don't know if anything ever happened to ADP. It's just an example of a HR management company that I know off the top of my head. But these are the type of things that can happen, and it just puts the individual in a very lost place because you don't have any control over this, like over what like you don't have any control over who your company uses, right? And then you don't have any control over what that third party company does, and it does definitely put you at risk. But sometimes it's about trade offs, because we do need to work. And even with that, like we put our data in, like we trust many different companies outside of work with our data, whether it's like Facebook or like we saw last week, 23andMe. But with those are for the most part our choice, where we go and we sign up with, which where we work for is also our choice, but it's less, I would say less of a choice than when we go sign up for our Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or whatever the case may be, right? So think about that and let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. Um, Give me some feedback. And do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts about how the responsibility of the employer and the responsibility of the third party vendor? Do you hold one more accountable than the next? Do you give somebody a pass? What is it? You tell me, right? So that's it for this week's episode of The Bug Bite. I am your host, Tech Coach Ralph. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, share the video with somebody who would find it useful, like I mentioned just now. Leave me a comment, let me know what you thought. let me know, give me some feedback, and we can go from there. I make sure that I respond to just about every comment, and we will enjoy it that way. All right. So that's it for today. I will see you guys next week on another episode of the Bug Bite. But until next time, friends, this is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.